Stay alert, people. Just because the lights are off doesn't mean nobody's home. This is some crazy technology. You getting this, Chandra?
Recording the whole thing, sir. Looks like Vegas boys cleaned it out.
Bad for a blunt.
Mutant Shiner.
My name's Umagon, and you better use it. Unless you want your head cut off.
I don't.
I can help you. I can help you find Vega.
Vega?
The Brotherhood holds our leader, Trados, in a highly secured medical colony south of here. We don't have the resources to break him out without you. But you can't find Vega without us.
Why should I trust you?
Unlike you blunts, the Forgotten are a people of honor.
I have pinpointed the location of the Nod prison camp. An array of sensor towers has been installed around the perimeter.
If we don't take that array out first, they'll know we're coming. Trados will be killed.
Ava, give us an approach assessment.
A sensor net protects the valley where Trados is being held. To facilitate his rescue, we must disable the array that controls this highly sensitive net. Once down, it will be much easier to get Trados out of the valley. Trados is being held in a hospital prison facility within this sector. Avoid detection and rescue Trados from the facility. Once he is out, a transport will be sent in to evacuate him. Once Trados is clear, destroy all Nod forces in the area to prevent further experimentation.
Welcome back, Commander. There's a lot to cover after that video, and unfortunately,
Yes, sir?
probably because it's an RTS game,
Yes, sir?
you're not really given the opportunity to fully, I don't know, embrace what's going on, especially with when it comes to the story.
Infantry report.
So I'm gonna try and
Moving orders. Moving out, sir.
at least surmise some stuff, but expect more in a post on the forums.
Infantry reporting.
So after protecting the UFO, as we'll just call it. Also, wow, that was a weird thing over there. So after protecting a ship, we notice that there's at least one inhabitant, if you want to call it that, or her that, I should say. Her name being Umagon. Umagon, well, let's just say that Umagon and McNeil get off to a rough start. And curiously, both have some names for each other. McNeil uses Shiner, and Umagon uses Blunt.
Loud and clear. Waiting.
I don't quite know what the whole Blunt refers to. I could take a couple guesses, I guess, but there's nothing really concrete there for me unless I try to read up on a bunch of other posts at some point.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, the Shiner moniker is obviously a reference to the fact that,
Loud and clear.
well, they've got shiny gems on their faces. And why is that? Well, let's just say that the people that have been inhabiting the area that has been overrun by Tiberium haven't exactly all died off.
Sir?
And because of that, well, they've suffered some mutations.
Sir?
Effectively, they're people that have Tiberium growing on them, which is a very strange concept.
Infantry reporting.
I'm not entirely sure how it's supposed to all work together. Something along the lines of,
Got it.
biomatter is fine, but
Infantry
terrain isn't, or something. Because you have to remember that in not only the previous game, but as far as we're led to believe, Tiberium essentially sucks up all the resources within an area and modifies it. It turns into Tiberium. And we've seen it happen at a fairly quick rate. So maybe there's something where there's like a chemical reaction or something between them and Tiberium, which makes it so that while they are infested or infected with Tiberium, it doesn't happen as quickly, or it doesn't drain them, whatever, to just grow a bunch of gems all over the place.
Infantry reporting. Sir? Unit report. Yes, sir?
It's also interesting that they call themselves the Forgotten. The basic gist of it, in story-wise, is that the Forgotten are, well,
Sir? Unit ready.
to put it lightly, they're the people that GDI aren't technically able to save. It's not that they can't, or they're too dumb, or whatever. It's just that, well,
Waiting orders.
if GDI's mandate is to be a global defense force, the Forgotten are clearly a group of people that have not had that luxury.
Awaiting orders.
And they've typically had to fend for themselves, at least going by whatever source material states about them.
Infantry reporting. Loud and clear.
Obviously, that makes, relations between mutants
Awaiting
and,
Unit reporting.
I guess, normies, normal people, regular, whatever. It makes it hard to have some sort of discourse between the two groups.
Sir.
Oh, and yeah, if it hasn't already, if you haven't already caught on, the AI just really likes this sort of tactic in this level. Essentially, it's a good way of preparing a player for, multiplayer shenanigans, and also just letting them know, this is a tactic that they will use.
Waiting orders. I'm reporting. Infantry reporting. Infantry reporting.
There's been at least one question, too, going back to the cutscene, with regards to the Kodiak. As far as I can tell, the Kodiak is a one-off. It's never mentioned if there's more, but I don't know. I just assume, just on how fancy it looks. If it's not unique, then it's safe to assume that it's what every GDI commander would use to get around. And think of it as a sort of mobile ops.
Heavy fire. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Waiting order. Yeah. Unit report.
There were also a few mentions that the destroyers are kind of quote-unquote suboptimal just because of the way that the physics works and how the grenades bounce around. We almost saw it there where, yeah, it is possible for them to damage friendly forces,
Loud and clear.
but,
Infantry reporting.
it just kind of happens so rarely.
Infantry reporting.
If anything, my bigger gripe is just that when it comes to certain buildings, the discs just seem to go through them.
Awaiting order. Waiting order. I'm taking heavy. Waiting order. Infantry reporting. Orders. Waiting order.
Oh, and you'll pardon me if I fast forward this part, because, well, you probably don't want to see me spend 10 minutes taking this base down. Alright, that base is done. But it doesn't solve the major issue, that of having to destroy the relay centers, because that's the real goal we're going after.
Loud and clear.
Sadly, it's one of those moments where I have the Windows sound happen, but also that it's nice that you can go this way. Like, I love the fact that this map is designed this way, because you would never really think to go down here and then explore some more. Like, it's just, I love it.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Unit ready.
But it doesn't really accomplish what we want to do, other than, I guess, you prevent the AI from reinforcing its own guys, which I guess is a nice, trade-off.
Infantry reporting. Sir?
I guess my point is just that if you happen to play this level, maybe do that, like,
Sir.
second,
Infantry reporting. Sir?
Oh, and
Yeah.
we saw it at least very briefly. This game
Infantry reporting.
will absolutely blow your socks off if you play it on the fastest difficulty.
Sir?
I don't think anybody can, like, realistically play with that setting.
Yes, sir.
It would be nice, though, if there was some way to, like,
Sir.
I don't know, imagine speedruns with that speed. Like, just an AI,
Infantry reporting. Infantry
like, taskbot working on it or something.
reporting. Waiting orders. Yes, sir.
Oh, and that's also something, there's also something you really need to pay attention to when you have medics. Don't attack ground with destroyers if you have a medic in the group, because you'll see what I did just now, where I had a medic basically suicide rush a laser, and now I'm kind of in a really big pickle here.
Yes, sir. Sir. Infantry reporting. Yes, sir. Infantry reporting.
I don't remember this infantry ever lasting this long. Basically, he's supposed to just kind of, like, attack these,
I'm taking heavy
well, I'll just say it, they're called Tiberium fiends. They're not really supposed to represent any one specific animal, I believe, other than, I guess, at best, be like a wild boar.
infantry reporting.
Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't,
Yes, sir. Waiting
I don't know what it's supposed to represent.
orders. Clear.
Now, generally speaking,
I'm on it.
they should attack. Like,
Waiting orders.
like they can attack.
These critters don't.
It's not really a spoiler. But, so I don't get why they don't do anything.
Yes, sir. Orders. Unit ready. Sir.
I have a feeling that maybe it's because I ruined their trigger.
Sir.
Like, maybe I killed a unit or two, and now it has nothing to target, so it doesn't do anything. That's about the only thing I can come up with.
Infantry
The
reporting.
Tiberium Fiend is supposed to be a representation of, we've seen the Forgotten, but this is also another life form that has managed to survive in a Tiberium environment.
Unit ready. Orders. Sir. Orders. Yeah. Loud and clear. Sir.
I guess it's probably a good time for me to actually pull out the rules file and let you guys know just what the upgrades are
Sir.
for infantry, or actually technically veterans, like in general.
Moving out.
So I don't know if this is specifically the file for Firestorm, or if there's a difference between Firestorm and regular Tiberian Sun
Yes, sir.
with regards to veterancy.
Infantry reporting.
But basically, there's a couple of things to
Infantry
be aware of. First off,
orders.
the first thing we've seen is that a unit must destroy 10 times its own value
Yes, sir.
in order to gain one veterancy. So if a destroyer is $200 or 200 credits or whatever, and it destroys a war factory that's 2,000, then it will upgrade once. If it does the same thing again, it'll upgrade a second time. You cannot upgrade more than twice.
Infantry reporting. Sir.
I believe every time a unit upgrades, it receives
I'm on it.
these specific bonuses.
Loud and clear.
So technically it would gain these twice.
Loud and clear.
Now again, this is a presumption on my end. I'm not sure if it's just you upgrade once and you get it, or you upgrade every time you upgrade you get... Anyways.
Unit ready.
So first things first, combat speed is increased by 0.25. I don't believe that's a huge amount, but it's hard to tell when it's like decimal values and you don't really have a baseline. Secondly, the speed of the unit is increased. Thirdly, the sight range. It should get a bonus, but in the rules it's just 0.0, so I don't really know why that's there. I assume maybe there was plans to give a sight bonus, but it was scrapped? I don't know.
Yes, sir.
Oh, and yeah, using injured disc throwers as an offensive weapon's nice sometimes.
Infantry reporting.
Getting back to veterans, there's also the armor and the rate of fire. The armor being 0.25 and rate of fire being 0.2. So you can imagine how keeping units that are veterans alive is a very good idea.
Awaiting orders. Yes, sir.
The only problem is that obviously in this sort of instance, I don't really have medics anymore because, you know, some errors were made.
Sir. Sir. Awaiting orders. Infantry reporting. I'm on it. Medic, sir. Sir, loud and clear. Infantry reporting. Sir.
Technically this is a map that you can kind of do in any order,
Orders.
in the sense that while you have 3 clear areas to attack, namely the 3 relay stations, there's nothing that ever says you must attack this one first, or vice versa, this one last.
Loud and waiting infantry reporting.
It's kind of why I really like this game. It just,
Reporting, yeah.
it always seems like the design of levels is just top-notch. There's obviously an exception here or there, but honestly, I wouldn't say it's ever incredibly noticeable.
Yeah. Orders. Sir. Medic, sir.
And I'm just going to point out, this isn't a map thing, this is just like a weird AI is targeting a civilian building.
Waiting orders. Sir. Waiting orders. Infantry reporting. Sir. Sir.
This is a new structure that we've actually only just started seeing, the laser fence. You kind of want to be careful around them, but not necessarily for the reasons you might think.
Infantry reporting.
I'll probably discuss them, or discuss that, in a way later episode.
Infantry
It doesn't really come up all that often in the GDI campaign, so don't worry about it too much.
Unit ready. Moving out. Yeah. Sir? Sir? Moving out. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Moving out. Loud and unit ready. Yes, sir. Infantry reporting. Moving out. Sir?
I guess I should mention that
Yes, sir.
there are certain units that can't gain veterancy. Or at least, you could probably program them, like, just give them the buff or whatever, like, at the start. But there's technically no way for them to actually gain experience.
Sir, you got it.
Obviously, there's the Harvester. I don't believe that crushing stuff counts as killing them, sadly. It would be neat to see a Harvester that like is somehow a general and can harvest Tiberium that much faster and move that much faster. But obviously, it also wouldn't make much sense.
I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. Waiting orders.
It's also another thing that's not like directly related to the current map I'm playing, but is related to the whole veterancy talk. And it is, I have to point out, it's kind of annoying because I actually like for this LP. Oh, there it is.
Got it.
For this LP, I actually did buy both guides. The Prima Official Strategy Guide for the base game,
Infantry reporting.
and I also have
Awaiting orders.
the Prima Official Strategy Guide for Tiberian Sun Advanced Strategies. The advanced strategies are actually all garbage, and I haven't noticed a single one that tells me to do anything that I wouldn't know, like, intuitively.
Sir?
There's just not really...
Loud and clear.
It's hard to say that there's a wrong way to play a level, other than, like, obviously throwing a bunch of infantry at something over and over again. And,
Yeah.
I mean, while we've seen there are quote-unquote puzzle missions,
Yes, sir.
like this one and the train station one, there's nothing really that ever forces you to,
Infantry.
how do I put it, nothing ever like forces you into really bad decisions. If anything, there's like bad play, but not,
Reinforcements.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you throw away your units, then you're throwing away your units. But it's very different from,
Sir. You got it.
from like
Yes, sir. Good as done.
a puzzle, or not a puzzle, where, you know, you'll eventually figure out how to defeat an enemy base.
Moving out.
Oh, yeah, and, that
Unit lost.
butthole in the ground,
Sir.
shoots out gas, so make your own jokes on your own time.
Unit
Because yeah, as a kid, I could never figure out how that wasn't, like, explicitly a butthole. That, like, pooped. I don't know. But it does show off that, one, those things are dangerous, because they only do that whenever you actually shoot, like, damage them. Two, the gas is extremely lethal, so obviously be careful of that.
Infantry reporting.
And, I mean, a unit dying in a Tiberium-related incident generates a Viceroid. Now, technically, it was possible to see Viceroids in Tiberian Dawn. And I say technically because if there was an actual instance of it, like, being possible, I never saw it. Ever. I don't want to say it was a spoiler. I try to keep it, like make sure people didn't talk about it. Because, well, I mean,
Awaiting orders.
it was impossible to show it off. Some people had mentioned that if you used a Toxin Soldier or Tiberium,
Orders.
the not flamethrower guys basically,
Sir.
there was like a 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 chance that killing a person that way would generate a Viceroy.
Infantry reporting.
I could never get it to work. Period. So,
Infantry reporting.
I don't know. Also, I think I'm gonna let that silo live, and I'm really disappointed in myself.
Infantry reporting.
I think it just blended into the background for me. Anyways, the Viceroy thing, it basically just goes to show that
Sir.
you kind of have to be careful with infantry in Tiberium, and I'm sure there's a reason why the first time it happens it's called a baby Viceroid and not something else.
Orders.
But maybe we'll see that in the future. Another thing I was showing off is attacking Blue Tiberium. There are reports, and I say reports because it's a spoiler and I don't want people to spoil it, but there are reports that something could happen if shot.
Sir.
It didn't, so maybe I just didn't fulfill the conditions for it.
Unit ready.
Getting back to the whole guide thing, what bugs me is that unless I just haven't ever noticed it, because it is possible. The Advanced Strategy Guide book is actually, I really don't like it. Again, because I don't think that it provides anything very useful, but more or less just because it doesn't have an index. Finding stuff is really hard in this. And I'm trying to see if there's a page that has the
Yes, sir.
upgrades, like what happens on veterancy,
Infantry reporting.
and I just don't think it's in here. So, also, there's at least like one instance, and it's a pet peeve of mine, but there's at least one instance where there's a level that's talking about, like, it's like, oh, look at these screenshots, because it's trying to give you an idea, and it's used from, like, a mission, like, 8 missions prior to it. So, congrats on Prima proofreading your stuff. And I can say that because I'm not paid for any of my stuff, so if I don't proofread stuff, I have an excuse. Haha. So anyways, the upgrades, at least for the units that we've seen so far, the Destroyer automatically scatters when in danger, which is something I don't think we've already seen it actually happen yet. It's a rare occurrence just because of like what needs to happen. And sadly, the infantry has the same upgrade. I only say sadly because I kind of wish they had something different. The original strategy guide mentions that they have an upgraded rifle, but I don't quite know what the reference is to it.
Infantry reporting.
I believe it might just be it gets a larger damage increase. I'm not 100% sure. Looking at the rules file.
Unit ready.
Yeah, so it gets what's called the M1 carbine, which is weird because that's an actual gun, and also one that would have been used almost 100 years prior in like this game's timeline. Because it is 2030, remember.
Yes, sir.
No problem.
Infantry reporting.
Awaiting orders.
Yes, sir.
Alright, let's see.
Awaiting orders.
Orders.
Unit
So, just so I have this in like a vocal form, light infantry rifle just has a normal minigun. Its damage is 8, rate of fire of 21, and range of 4.
Yes, sir.
And if I go all the way down to the M1 carbine, damage is 15, rate of fire 20, and range of 4. So yeah, actually a significant bonus. You should, I mean, I want to say you should try to get veterancy for your infantry, but that's not happening. The only other applicable ones are the Wolverine. Sadly, they get no new weaponry, and they get a property that, well, we'll talk about later. The Titan gets an increased upgraded cannon. I'll try to pull that up in another video, and also has a sensory package upgrade, and well, we'll be able to talk about that as well in a later video.
Infantry reporting.
For now, though,
Sir.
let's just say it's a little annoying to do this sort of thing. Whenever you're sort of scouting blind, yeah, that sort of thing happens.
Infantry reporting. Waiting order. You got it. Yes, sir. Good as done. Infantry reporting. I'm on it.
Normally, you just either go from the front or behind and just, mass your attack that way,
Medic.
rather than what I did, which was to split up my forces.
Medic.
If you happen to have all your infantry, like if you're attacking all from the front, then, I mean, you can just smash your way through those tick tanks, and lasers, obviously. If you're going through the rear, then you just don't have to deal with as many
Infantry reporting.
defenses.
Out and clear. Sir. Infantry reporting. Sir. Yes, sir. Infantry reporting.
I will say, though, that veterancy has one issue where, because of how units operate, like how everybody shoots and stuff, it's really hard to actually give experience to a specific unit. And there's no way of checking how close or how far away a unit is from upgrading. You just kind of have to blow up stuff and hope it, like, actually does the trick.
Yeah, sir. Sir, you got it. I'm on it.
Unit reporting.
It also means that more expensive units are really hard to upgrade. Titan's not so much. Titan is like $800, $900 or something.
No problem.
But, yeah, there's some other units that, you know, when you're at 10,000 credits required, it gets tough.
On my way.
Infantry reporting, yes, sir. I'm on
At least
infantry
it does for GDI, because, well, there's medics. Medics don't heal vehicles, so...
order.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Infantry reporting.